This is the Indian Viewpoint, a program concerning the Indian in the Northland.
Our
Here's George
endorsement.
Domingo.
And he imposed all kinds of sanctions against the Red Lake Reservation, the council, because of the 1979 violence. So all they listened to was these criminals that are identified in this communist newspaper. They are a disgrace to the Indian world. We got a bunch of self-serving Indians down in Washington now who are not advocates of the Indian people. They're only advocates for whatever the White House and Secretary Watt tells them what to do. They don't listen to us. We have no voice at all in the White House, Congress, or in the Secretary of the Interior's office whatsoever. We have a bunch of self-serving Indians who are sellouts. Why? Because they are enjoying retirement benefits today, while many of our people are walking around the streets looking for, begging for $1. Roger, give me $1. I need cigarettes. Give them $1. Forrest Gerard is not giving them $1. And anybody associated with Forrest Gerard or Ed Demry, they can't be any better than they are, because they exploited the good name of the Indian too much. There are other people like that. I can name a whole lot of them. And so it's a sad situation today. And I don't know how we're going to correct it, but we're going down into Washington in the last week of January. The NTCA, the National Tribal Chairman Association, NCAI, National Congress of American Indians, we're going to have a joint meeting. And we're going to get our bow and arrow out and see what we can do, attract some attention. Of course, we're not going to resort to violence, but we're going to certainly remind that movie actor in the White House that the American Indian still exists in his own country.
Raj, you mentioned several times the 1979 issues that were rising up in Red Lake. Can you briefly describe what happened in your opinion and what the outcomes were as you see them?
Now, one of the things that happened was the breakdown of the law and order system on the Indian reservation. Not only Red Lake, it's a breakdown all across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when Public Law 280 came into the forefront. At that time, Red Lake was exempted from the Public Law 280 because of our chiefs fighting against the state jurisdiction on our reservation. And it's been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. East Lake and Mountain Lake and all the rest of the reservations have had opinions in their favor because the state has no jurisdiction on your lands whatsoever. Now, the breakdown came from within of our law and order system. And the principal connection that these criminals had was a sister-in-law who was representing the law and order in the Red Lake law and order system. And the enemy number one, Pee Wee Hansen, his sister-in-law was in there. Heck, it was corrupt from within. And the Bureau of Indian Affairs looked the other way. To this day, I got documents. They have not. We asked for a report on the files of the looting and arson up in Red Lake. My home, other homes, laundromat, the business places. And they said the files were empty. They whitewashed it. The FBI, the BIA. We had a task force composed of 19 counties back in '72. Beltrami, Tasca, Cass County, Hubbard, Clearwater, Monoman, Becker, and Pennington, and many others. And they came up there, up to Red Lake when the violence took place, tried to hold down the violence, but there was no commander-in-chief. They let everybody run loose. And in fact, they shot at my home for 15 solid minutes with the guns that they stole from the new Law and Order building. And I had 12 uniformed officers in there, deputies from Itasca and from Cass County, Beltrami, and they made us lay down inside of our home. They shot at us probably about 200 yards, or 150 yards at the most. High-powered guns. They come right through the house. Two of the deputies, one got hit in the hand, the other one got in the shoulder, right through the house. And so then we were evacuated by the orders of Ed Demry and Elmer Nitsky, the so-called solicitor of the area, and the FBI. They ordered the Jourdains be taken off the reservation. And this is one thing that irritates me. The newspaper always said Jourdains fled. We never fled. and we were ordered to be evacuated, and they sacrificed our homes, records running 300 years old, and the Bureau of Indian Affairs cares less whether I have a home or not. I and my wife, Margaret, 49 years, we're homeless. The BIA, look at Ed Demery, he's enjoying prosperity. Who was the guy that was the principal BIA spokesman that evacuated me and put me in the Rainbow Inn? And my grandsons were already in the Rainbow Inn when I got there. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have nothing. And we were held as hostage there for about 70 days. We couldn't get off the second level of the Rainbow Inn. We had armed guard there, Doug Parisian, with an automatic machine gun. And I don't want anybody to ever give me room service again in my life. So we finally went home, and we got a mortgage home. That's where we're living in now. But we're surviving, and my resolution, 1983, you guys were bragging about your resolutions. My resolution is to survive against the onslaught of the Bureau of Indian Affairs and this administration. So as far as we're concerned, the Bureau of Indian Affairs is trying to make amends now, and they have followed up everything. For instance, we have an $8 million claim, another claim, two claims. And here we have our review. We had a hearing August the 7th, and here's the history and status of the railway claims docket. 72, 600,000, another one, 8,147,000. And the Bureau of Indian Affairs, we adopted a plan January 9th, and we asking the Bureau of Indian Affairs Secretary to process it in accordance with the Federal Distribution Act. The Federal Distribution Act says you have to process it within 180 days, and they followed it all up, deliberately stonewalled it. And I'm going to show you right inside here. It says here, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the BIA admits fault in a newspaper, an interview. The special bill then would be required because they failed to carry out their trust responsibility. They have to admit it. And there are failures in the whole Bureau of Indian Affairs. As long as that goes on and permitted to go on, the Indian people, not only in Minnesota, they're going to be in trouble all across the country. So we got money, and we asked the senators to help us short-circuit the release of it. It's been a year ago now, and we sent them telegrams, letters documented by attorneys. It fell on deaf ears. They deliberately ignored the pleas and the begging of the Red Lake Band of Chippewas to release that money. And once they release that money, it's going to have a goddamn big economic impact on the city of Bemidji, because that's where we spend all of our money. And once it circulates probably recycle about 20 times, and some Bemidji conservative will hold all of that money, put it in a Swiss bank account, and never be released again. If they're all like us Indians, you know, every time we get a payday, we spend our money. We don't hold it. Keep it in circulation. Now, as far as we met with Secretary Watt back in January 27, 1982, with the NTCA Board of Directors. And he defended himself of all the good things he's doing for the Indian people. He said that we're doing a lot for you people. So question and answer developed. He was asked, what about jobs? You go to private sector, Chelsea. So I asked him, I said, why don't you put some special set aside your great big defense factory that you're starting up? You want us to go to private sector. You can't find a job, private sector in Bemidji. You go throughout all the business places, you won't find one Indian working in a checkout counters. Silver John's, Lucan's, and the bankers, no place. We're not qualified to work. You gotta have some bloodline relationship. It's all nepotism.
George, I think we need to continue this, and what we're going to do for the viewing audience is to invite Mr. Jourdain to come back for another segment of Indian Viewpoint. So be with us next week. We'll continue on with this interview with Roger Jourdain, and thank you very much for letting us into your homes.
Oh.